kind of usually tap back to the ancients and tap back to the grandmothers about what they say when you should be preparing for a child. You know, those bread talk bread, which is so soft and easy to chew, right? The minute it's in our saliva, it doesn't actually need any digesting by our gut to turn into sugar. So we've got enzymes in our saliva already. The more you chew it, the sweeter it becomes. That's because it's already being digested right there in your mouth and instantly turns into sugar.
The order of how you eat.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I might have
so,
it. Yeah.
Like proteins first.
All your veggies first. Like all the fiber. Fiber is so important.
Yeah.
Then your carbs.
Okay.
So if the carbs come last, you will crash less and you...
It's a really big one because I think that there's been a survey done globally as well, and Singaporeans are one of the people with the most sleep deprivation. And I don't know how exactly what questions they ask, but that's like, wow, you know, we are number one for a lot of things, including this.
High stress.
The sleep deprivation and the high stress.
Yeah.
And there's so much to the sleep, not just your hours, right? Like you said, Susanna.
Yeah.
I'm not a very techie person. This is the kind of watch that I wear, but people who do have their watches, they maybe have some insight as to that, and then they begin exploring this area in their lives, right? Which is actually a very positive thing I see. Another thing that I would like to point out also is that women will have different sleep patterns at different times in their cycles too. So sometimes perfecting the 8 hour of sleep thing in one part of your cycle, you might find that you might need 10 in the latter post-ovulation luteal phase, you know?
Yeah.
Then once you've got it right, you're going to perimenopause and you got to refigure it out again, right? So is that the experience? I mean, how have your sleeps, have they changed at all? Or?
Wow. I'm definitely sleeping better now. For a long time, when I first gave birth to my daughter, of course, you know, it was very tough. I was juggling so many things, working and all. I only had consistently 5 hours of sleep.
Wow.
For years. Yeah. Until she got older, I think maybe up to the age of 6 or 7, then I had better sleep. And then now that she's not in Singapore, and I think I have far better sleep now that she's not here.
The further she is.
It's like out of sight, out of mind, right? Think about it. Yeah. So, you know, I sleep, and obviously is the menopause thing as well. But I didn't really have problems sleeping during even perimenopausal or I would sleep. It's just that my sleep is short. You know, I would sleep deep, but it's short because of time, because of like auto just wake up after 5 hours kind of thing. But now it's much longer. I sleep quite early now, and I just wake up my usual time. Wake up at 5. Sometimes I go to bed like 9. Sometimes 8:30. I'm like, okay, I want to go to bed. Yeah, the sleep is much better for me now.
Wow, that's actually very positive in comparison to the things that I hear. Of course, I run a supplement company, and our bestseller is magnesium based and it's sleep medications as well. And so I hear a lot of stories about how they've been been a very good sleeper, and then all of a sudden like become such a light sleeper and they cannot get their heads around it.
I've always been able to sleep fairly well. As a young person, I had very bad habits. I would sleep. Okay, when work days, it's quite fixed, you know, got to wake up by a certain time. But weekends is when I will totally crash and wake up at lunchtime, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then end up sleeping very late, like because I woke up so late. Yeah. But only now, actually in the last 5 years, I've started to concertedly sleep earlier. Yeah. Before 11, I make sure I'm in bed and asleep already. Yeah. So that, I was taught that between the hours of 11 and maybe 3 is when your liver is detoxing the most. So if you're not resting, it cannot do its job. So I always tell myself, okay, you got to be asleep at that time, you know, and just wake up early. Yeah, by 11.
So what happens between like 9 and 11? Do you have a kind of a chronograph? Because Shamala's getting those in very well.
Getting into bed I think that in itself, even if you don't actually fall asleep, getting your sleep space ready, that's what I like to do as well. So that, by the time I want to sleep, at least I'm already in a position, and not like still doing last minute things, to end the day.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, of course, I speak to a lot of moms, and maybe they find themselves not in the position to catch the first wave of sleep. Do you have this as well? Do you experience this where you have a first wave of sleepiness at around sunset, very, very soon after sunset? So 8, there's a first wave of sleepiness, and once you pass that, you don't feel sleepy too much anymore. 2 a.m. maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so actually we are wired to sleep very soon after sunset. And because of the artificial light, we have lost that wiring. And then we don't have a natural melatonin slide to easily slide down anymore.
Yeah.
There is this 2 sleep thing, right? Have you all seen it on social media? Like they were saying maybe centuries ago, maybe 2 centuries ago, people used to have 2 sleeps. Like they would go to bed right after sunset.
Oh yeah, I've
They would
seen
wake
that.
up. They would wake up at 1 a.m. and then they do some socializing. Like they would visit each other's
Socializing.
house, or they'll eat, or they do something. They read a book for a few
Very
hours.
cool.
Then they go back to sleep at like just before the sunrise or something like that, or maybe 4 a.m. Then they wake up. They sleep for another 4 hours,
Okay.
and that is like the 2 sleep thing, right? So that seems to be the way that we used to sleep. I don't know whether that's true.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to envision like how is this happening? Is it the Victorian times?
I think
Or
so.
is it like
so.
how, I was just trying to imagine this scene in my head, and I was like, wow, that's very cool. I mean, you can do a lot of writing and reading and focus work actually during that time.
And I guess couples can have sex, make babies, right? At 1 a.m.
Yeah. But that's if you already had like a full, or you already had your sleep tank is actually already full somewhere.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing now is actually sleeping at that time. Oh, very interesting. Okay.
So I've realized this about myself. If I go to bed, if I'm really tired, I catch that wave, right, where I'm really sleepy at about 8:30. I'll go to sleep, but I'll automatically wake up about 1:30.
Oh.
And then I'll be up for the next 2-3 hours.
Wow.
But then I managed to go back to sleep again, and I'll sleep for another few hours. And I thought, okay, that's not quite bad. I can do things in between,
Actually, when you mentioned that's happened to me a few times, but I just because I didn't know, I don't have that at the forefront of my mind, so I just lay there. Then fell back asleep at some point.
Or we get stressed because we're not sleeping.
Then that whole thing happens. That's right. So sleep is really a really good one to nail. So when I start working with someone and I find that their sleep is like a 4-hour, 5-hour situation, then working on that alone can bring a lot of changes in our journey. It's a good one.
The lack of sleep, it increases cortisol level as well, right?
Increases your sugar spikes during the day as well. So the way your body handles sugar, sleep is one of the things.
So for me,
for moms, go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna say between eating and sleeping, I pick sleeping. I always feel that sleep is more important than even eating, because you can fast, you can safely fast and not eat for however many hours, but if you don't sleep, it's actually very dangerous.
I mean, I feel so brain fried after that, right? And then your food choices become haywire, and that's how you get yourself into another loop, it's
correct.
Right. So sleep first, you're right.
I
mean, talking to the moms here who might be listening as well, which is, yes, it's one thing to focus on sleep and to think that it's very important, but there is a reality of breastfeeding and being woken up by children and who need you in the middle of the night as well. But then pointing back to what Shamala shared about the two-phase sleeping thing, perhaps that could work well for moms where we sleep when the baby sleeps, which is about 7 plus. And by the time that anyone comes and wakes you, you're actually fine.
Yeah.
You're meant to be awake anyways, apparently.
Yeah.
Right? And you
Yeah.
get, and then you actually get your hours in, like you actually get 2 cycles in.
Yeah.
True.
So that could be one. And of course, the resilience of the mom's body is one to be like absolutely grateful for. And it's a season in time, right? The sleep loop. The stress loop. Psychologically speaking, like what do you see actually in the stress loop? Like what made you ask that question also?
The women that I coach, right, when they get into the stress loop, they then make bad food choices because they want the dopamine hit. Then they spend a lot of time on the phone as well because of the dopamine hit. Then they play games, gaming online, which seems very normal now for a lot of women in their 40s for some reason. I never knew that, until...
What kind of games? Candy Crush?
No, like they play with people like
Oh, like RPG
overseas,
and
and I have
World
no
of
idea.
Warcraft kind of stuff.
So
Okay.
they would play these sort of games, and then it disrupts the whole sleep cycle, right?
Course.
They play into the night. And then when the wake hour, because they're not thinking straight, they make terrible choices when it comes to their work or even relationships. It just gets really messed up. And it's very hard to get them out because there is real addiction, right? Real addiction to these games, to social media, to food. And then we're not just dealing with one addiction, we're dealing with multiple, and it's very difficult. And then on top of that, the hormones go haywire, right? In their 40s. It's a lot. It's really a lot. And sometimes with certain clients that are very challenging, I just find like, where do we start? I also realize it's also the time in their lives where unresolved trauma will surface. Then everything just, it
It's
becomes...
like a big cauldron of it.
Yeah.
Of
So
issues.
I usually direct them to your link, Cheryl, to get magnesium first. You have to get magnesium. Yeah, because then you learn to calm down. When you're calm, then you can think straight. If you're not calm, you don't have enough sleep, then everything is just... Yeah. So usually I get them to start there. And if they're already taking some form of supplement, it helps. So, and I also spoke from my own experience, right? I was vegetarian for a very long time and obviously lacking in certain nutrients. So there are, people who are vegetarians. I try to get them to consume something at least, that is even bone broth, helps. But there's a lot of resistance, and I can understand where they are coming from as well. And so then we have to find alternatives or suggest different, because it affects them mentally.
Yeah.
If that part is not right, the mental, then how to heal? You can't even process the trauma. It's so
It's an
difficult.
unreal expectation to expect that our human bodies can run on just vegetables alone. I don't know whether as an ex-vegetarian you would also nod along and say, but like I would really say that lah. And if you wanted to do that and you couldn't get the ethical bit integrated within yourselves that we have to eat and kill, then you have to use synthetic supplements, right? Then you have to rely on the labs to do it. So, I guess you can pick one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
my daughter is still a vegetarian, but I insist that, eggs. At one time she wanted to become vegan. I said, no way, like you go vegan, you're completely you don't have enough whatever you need, right? So at least now there's still cheese. She takes cheeses very well. So there's eggs, so I'm not so overly concerned because there is still all these things, right? Lentils. But yeah, people who are, I don't know, I'm not generalizing, but I've come across quite a few who are vegans or who are vegetarians, but they don't take a lot of eggs or cheese or dairy products. They're very bad tempered.
Oh.
is like this agitation.
Mm.
And because they're not regulated well. I think sometimes also a lot of people, when they lack control in their lives, like because of something that happened, trauma, unresolved, and they lack control, they want to control the diet by choosing these things, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure I did that as a vegetarian, right? Like things were like in the background not working, but not aware. So chose to become a vegetarian thinking this is something I can control, until I realized that, oh my God, I'm lacking in so many things in my body. And so it could
Lack
be
of
that.
control,
And so you do a lot
Diet
of
is the easiest thing to control.
yeah,
To gain a sense of control, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And we hear of people with eating disorders. It's all to do with that, right?
mental, emotional and mental.
Yeah. Well-being.
There is a way to be vegetarian healthily. It's definitely not the way I was vegetarian when I was a teenager. Because you can eat cookies and be vegetarian, you know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Eat cookies all day. Yeah, I'm vegetarian. No, so that's not, but I've seen some very healthy vegetarians and they really have to make up for it by eating almost double the amount that we could eat, because meats are very nutrient dense. And so when it's not as nutrient dense, then you just have to have a bigger volume of it to enable to get all nutrients that you need from it. Plus, then you supplement artificially as well.
Yeah. Like people always say you don't overeat eggs because it's high cholesterol or whatever. But I feel as a vegetarian, if you want to eat eggs, take 4 eggs or 5 eggs, cook it all at once, and then that's your protein, right? And it's okay. Like don't worry about the cholesterol and all of that, because you do need the protein.
You need to stay alive.
Most people take 1 egg. Like, what is one
egg?
egg?
2 is not even enough to me.
one or two. There's been a study shown, especially for cardiovascular. So we talk about cholesterol, then most of the people are actually trying to prevent a heart attack or a stroke, right? So that's where the question of cholesterol comes to play. And so there is this legacy effect still that I see of people being very afraid of eggs. And or even some hotels are still having egg white omelets, and I'm like, come on, like, let's get on with it already. Because increasingly the research are now showing that the people who eat eggs have less heart attacks than people who don't eat eggs.
Yay.
And
I'm so happy to hear that.
The number that they put is modest. The number of eggs that they put is 7 a week. So that literally is 1 egg a day. So it's actually quite modest, because I'm also more for eating 2 or 3 eggs a day type person. However, the stark point was that if you try to refrain from eating eggs, you're actually putting yourself at risk of higher heart attacks than the people who are not refraining from eggs. That's my point. Yeah.
Great.
Right? Yes. Nada, you'd be happy with this.
Yeah, very, very happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that, like going back to stress, right? Are people stressed because they can't say no? They've not learned to set boundaries? And are they distracting themselves with all these games and whatever, swiping social media, because they have not learned to enjoy their own company, or to just, maybe they've not accepted their lives, the state of their life. So they're just trying to, take the attention away from themselves. Yeah. So it's
I see Shamala agreeing.
Yeah. I think it's all of the above a lot of the times, And also I just did a video on this actually, where I talk about work hustle, right? Like we are all, we've been so programmed to work or do things in a certain way, because a lot of things that you do, even at the office, there's a lot of emotions, right, involved. The politics, like, am I doing this well enough? Will my boss approve? Will this person say this? Will this? So there's a lot of emotional stress. So it's not the work itself that's giving you stress. It's all the emotions.
People
don't realize
that.
People don't realize that that is a stress loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They think it's the physical doing. I say no lah. Without the emotional stuff, your physical body can keep on going for quite a long time. You know, you need to do whatever you need to do, right? Like you don't even have to engage emotionally.
Yes.
Then you
True.
can go at it a longer time. But with the emotions, the load.
When you talked about the loop, right? Was there also this concept of being, how to say, stressing ourselves? Right? Like, the stress loop is not an external stress, it's actually an internal programming. We are already programmed to be stressed.
Yeah. For sure. Because
That's a loop.
The stress is like living up to other people's expectations, trying to control how much input output because of what other people will think. So it's a lot of like this internal thing, right, that's going on, this internal conversation. And it's happening a lot. I mean, more so than people realize. And then the more stressed you are, the more you go into this rumination, right? What will people think? What would they say? And then you add salt and pepper to the stories, which then makes the stress even worse. Yeah, everyone should just learn to meditate and pray. So
Meditate
it
and
brings
pray.
it down. Brings it down. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Because,
I just feel that people should be kinder to one another. Then everyone will be a lot less stressed.
Yes.
I mean, don't have to, gaslight people at work. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
People are so competitive. Like, oh, I want to do better than you. I want to get that promotion over you. I want to get a raise over you. Bosses are so demanding. The expectation at work. I mean, I have not worked full time for 10 years, so I can imagine that now it's even worse than when I was working. Yeah, so it's all this, like, why can't everyone just take it down a few notches and be more understanding and be kinder? And it's not about the performance, progress, profit. It's people. If your people are not happy, they're not well, they are not going to do well. Yeah, they're just going to break down. They're going to be stressed and break down, and then nobody wins.
the business goes. Yeah, the business suffers too, and then your ability to get paid suffers.
Correct.
Together with the business.
I think it's this lack of empathy for one another. Just this, I don't care about you. I just want to do better than you. I've got a family to feed. I want to go for that holiday, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope also something can be done like in big corporations. Now they got like wellness day off or whatever, right? They should give this to menopausal women. When they're going through like all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Going on and mentally, emotionally, and then physically. They should give them some like menopausal day off or something, go and deal with your stuff, go and have a relaxing day, and maybe reward them for taking a time off, because if they don't, they come back to the office, they're tyrants, right? Because they can't control their emotions. They go, and they can be quite unpleasant to be with, right? Women who are going through all this. And I feel there should be better understanding about what women are going through. It's a lot, that is going through in the body, all the changes. Going to midlife is no fun, right? If you don't have the tools, if you don't know how to handle it. So on a grand scale, I hope that, these changes can take place in the future.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully not as just a nod and a simple one day off kind of a thing, because I think it does take more than that. There are some corporations who are considered quite progressive, and so I've sat in on conversations where they are actually reimbursing for the use of HRT, which I think is one way of saying that they support their above 40 women. So yeah, I think there's this conversation, and there seems to be more going on about women's health and how it very much differs from men's health. So
Yeah.
these are good. These are good. But
Mm.
the thing is, I feel that there's a real big like cultural shift. I mean, for moms as well, for women in general, and then also for supporting the post-menopausal woman, which is basically the second half of their life and a very big part of any businesses like
Yeah.
HR. I mean, people.
Yeah.
Resources. Shamala, you mentioned to me, right, that people in their midlife tend to make funny choices. What did you mean by that? I'm very curious. Because I'm not like I'm there, you see, I'm just not there. So, tell me.
But I think for you, you are in a different place, I guess, for you, because you are a mom, you have your business, you're juggling, your challenges are a bit different. For the women that I work with, some are single, some are married, maybe no kids, in relationships and then no kids. So they're in a different space. And because when they don't have it together, then their choices become, they will do things without thinking of the consequences, what it will do to them, themselves, their bodies, their health, their wellness, and maybe, make wrong choices when it comes to partners, even. And yeah, I don't know, maybe it's the clients that I have, right, that gives me this impression like, oh no, like what's happening, what is happening with this group, this particular age group of women in their 40s especially.
I think
Yeah.
they are lonely. So
Yeah.
they grab at whatever, pays them the slightest attention, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So it's loneliness. And that is in itself is an affliction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
And
becoming very common, right?
and it
Because
leads to so many other things.
because in your 40s you will be at the point where you think it's too late already. You start thinking to yourself, right? Oh, it's too late. Firstly, I can't have kids anymore. It's too late to find a life partner. All the good men are taken up. So in the 40s is you have that mindset. But once you hit 50s, right, you don't really care anymore. Right? It's a different kind of, you're in a different space. You feel like, oh, I can be on my own. It's a transition. But in the 40s, it feels like I need to get someone before it's too late. That kind of urgency. So it could be that. Maybe that's why. It could be that. You made a good point, Susanna. Yeah.
I mean, I have come across some people who are really still trying to get to that ideal, get married and everything. And they're in their mid 40s and, even late 40s as well. And the pressure and the pain in their voices is really strong. So yeah, there's that. And that's been quite tricky because they came to me working towards fertility. So it was a very interesting, interesting way around it, and they eventually came to acceptance because I keep in touch with them. But like
it takes work, to get to the point of acceptance. It does take work,
I also want to add, it's not just loneliness. I think they also feel that they are not enough. As themselves, they are not enough. And
because
it's
women,
very, very sad.
a lot of the predominant way of valuing a woman is also by her childbearing, especially at that time in the life, right? 0 to, I mean, like, young maiden type time. So grieving that is like the thing I can imagine. Right. That's really, really hard one to talk about.
Susanna, have you had any of these challenges, like judgment from people or anything you're dealing with? Because Susanna doesn't have kids.
Okay.
And so I can imagine what, right?
I get what you mean.
But at the same time, she also looks like she's in her late 20s. So
yes.
you know what I mean? So I don't know whether Susanna will like really get like.
So I'm older than Shamala, okay?
Okay.
I'm like a year older. I have been very, very blessed, or maybe I've been blissfully oblivious to people who look at me in a certain way, but my parents never pressured me to have children. Never once. They say a peep about anything.
Okay.
I have a mixed bag of friends. I have friends who are single, friends who are married with children, married without children. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe in my line of work it was also not an issue. Not because I mean, like in fashion and beauty, we don't really focus so much on convention. A lot of things is always like, okay, quite out of the box, quite unexpected. We try to do things very differently. So the culture of my my colleagues, my work circles was just a lot of gay men, single women who are just happy, to be doing what they want to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had colleagues who had many children too. Yeah. So it's like coexisting very happily, but not judging anyone for our differences. Yeah.
I have read somewhere as well that it's actually not everybody's, just because we're a woman with reproductive abilities, not all women in history, I mean, like sort of the layout of civilization, right? I mean, women are moms through being aunts a lot, and they're mothering as well. So they're in their mothering phase of life in a community, and it's not that every mother is going to actually birth children. And maybe like perhaps you're not like you're not the one.
That really resonates with me, that you can still be a mother to people without having birthed them. Like my I have two nephews, and I love them like my children, but they are not my children. And it's just a different relationship.
So as a mom, right, I also really resonate with this in that we wouldn't run our family so well if not for all the aunts around that we have adopted into our village. So they're not blood relations, but they are there as aunts. And and then sometimes they'll tell me and they share me like, oh, I don't have my own kids and stuff like that. But reading that piece of that info that I came across, I was like, oh, actually, I think you are so much in the mothering. You're as kind of a mother as well, like without having birthed them, and a very, very key part of the community and the society that we live in. So if people can sort of kind of think that way, but then also individually, I don't know what I would have gone through if I were not to have kids, because I personally had a very strong feeling that I wanted to be a mother. So then I think there are a lot of other people who are also going through having the strong feeling and yet physically not being able to. That one is really heartbreaking. That one is more a testament for how our environment has affected our bodies in such a way that we can't actually reproduce. That one is different. It's like not
by choice. I have never wanted to be a mother. I just cannot imagine myself a mother in the conventional way. I think I maybe lack that mother gene. I don't know.
I remember
mother gene. What's that?
I remember when we were in our 20s and we were talking about wanting to be a mom, and I remember Susanna said, oh, I will be very happy to be pregnant with a dog.
Yes. And
oh my gosh.
And I actually had a nightmare that I was giving birth, and I was like, oh man, like, why is my life like that? And then it was a puppy. And I was so relieved. I was like, I gave birth to a puppy.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So cute, right?
But having said that, I'm the mother of 4 cats. So so I do mother in a way.
No, we couldn't do without the aunts. The childless aunts that are all around us, like ever so ready to give their attention, and actually they give better attention because they're not as overwhelmed. Not going through the hormonal ups and downs.
Correct. They're like the Thames. The relief relief teachers that all the students will miss, like, oh, she's going off already, like, yeah, so sad. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So those, the aunties and the grandparents that are actually around, they serve like a massive purpose. Yeah. So the menopause is basically us turning into the grandparents and then giving back to society that way, right? And also this piece of info again fuels me, which is children do a lot better when there have been grandparents around. They actually live longer. They survive, like babies survive better when there has been a grandmother in there. So they do this on animal studies, and then they're doing this on observation, when they observe. I guess it's a sociological piece of research.
Interesting.
So nice.
Yeah, correct. So there's a very definite purpose of the post-menopausal years in terms of our evolution, in terms of our how we have not gone extinct yet.
Yeah. So nice.
Yeah, at the rate we're going, right, the things we do to ourselves is quite surprising we're not extinct.
Which points to the fact that, no matter how much fear mongering there can be, because in my world of functional medicine, we learn all the things about the chemicals and what's good and bad and things like that. And people get quite anxious about it, to be honest. So I like to kind of like just paint on the other side. Listen, how many millions of years have we, evolved to survive and been adaptable? Right? You want to be vegan for a couple of years, whatever. I mean, like, you go ahead and be vegan for your whole life, you probably survive, maybe, I don't know. Like, you just wouldn't want, you wouldn't be too happy with outcomes individually, but as a civilization, we'll survive. So I like to kind of like take the edge off any kind of neuroticisms that we can get over this whole biohacking and functional medicine world that we speak in. So all the solutions that I give are very, very whittled down to the most simple, most like things that will count.
Okay. All right. So that's been a fun conversation.
We went on.
We did. Cheryl, go first. We'll spin the wheel. There are some questions about stress in there. Others are just, a bit more general.
What's one version of your life that looked good on paper but drained your spirit? Oh gosh, that's an easy one for me because I really have looked at this. I mean, the whole achieving credentials part of my life, driven by whatever it is I was driven by, they all looked wonderful on paper, but the amount of sacrifice of my own self and my own time and, having to say yes to never seeing light of day and doing shift work in England in the darkest times of the year. That looked good on paper. But I wasn't exactly fueled by it. Perhaps I was fueled by it because I was a little bit ignorant at the time. But then when I woke up, I looked at it and went, oh, that was not really a worthwhile sacrifice for me. But I very, very quickly woke up and then decided that I was going to move back to Singapore. So that was a very much of a turning point in my life. So I was pursuing all the things, and I was pursuing hospital-based specialisms, doing all the research studies. I was like putting in the time for A&E work and intensive care work, which also meant that it was a lot of shift work. But that was draining physically as well as emotionally. So I decided that's when I decided that, okay, that's enough. I'm going to make some steps. It wasn't one drastic steps, but it was multiple steps towards living a little bit more aligned. So away from hospital medicine, because hospital medicine and specialisms at that time to me were more sexy than being a GP. Then I thought about it and was, and me knowing that I wanted a family and all that, I said, okay, actually I should be a GP, even though it wasn't sexy. Turned out to be very enjoyable and very rewarding, the face-to-face with patients and all this kind of stuff. I loved it. And it was not a mistake. So then then slowly making changes to the lifestyle and saying, okay, hey, I want 9 to 5. So I was going to go away from the sexy hospital specialties into this, but actually I was walking closer to myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Nice. Thanks.
Yeah. Are you no longer available for, even if you haven't said it out loud yet? Ooh.
I love these questions.
Yeah. Yes. They are very
Shamala made them,
thought-provoking.
right?
No.
Okay. Sounds very Shamala made them, kind of.
I'll let you know later.
I would say bad behavior. Yeah. People who don't show up responsibly, where there is a lack of, I don't know, a lack of wanting to, do their best, a lack of care. Yeah. I will not place myself in a position where I have to take that. Yeah. And a lot of times you don't have to say anything. You just what you do is often louder than what you say.
Yeah.
So then I always know what to do, and that's it.
Yeah.
Don't have to entertain anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shamala's turn.
What are you no longer waiting to feel before you take action? I usually will have to feel whether it sits right with me or not. So, unless we're talking about mundane things like walking the dog, obviously I don't have to feel in the mood. No matter what my mood, I still have to take the dog. Like even if it's raining, I still have to take the dog. But in life in general, I usually feel into it whether it sits right. So yeah, that would be my response.
But would you, like, say for example, the feeling of excitement? What's your relationship to excitement?
I will not make decisions when I'm excited about something. I will not make a decision when I'm angry or sad. I wait till I'm neutral.
Yeah.
Because if I'm excited about something, it could just be the excitement talking, right? It may not be a right decision. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's something I learned fairly recently about myself.
Nice. To be neutral before you make a decision.
To be neutral.
That's good. That's good. Okay, one more for Cheryl.
Oh, one for me. What's one identity you're outgrowing, even if it's hard to admit? Ooh. I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. Ask me some more questions to help me. Let's see.
What's the first thing? What's the first thing you would say to someone when they ask you describe yourself?
I've always been quite good with not latching to identities. I'll say that. But when I graduated with medicine and became a doctor and all that, yes, that identity was perhaps beneficial to hold on to and actually gave a lot. And that's one that I'm actually also just like kind of letting pass as well and kind of going back down to the real me. Of like, okay, I'm fun loving, I'm very curious, I'm a bit investigative, I love people, I like communicating, and I can communicate things down very easily. So I'll just like try to whittle it down to that so that I can not really latch onto like, oh, I'm a doctor. Yeah, which is also a bit interesting for me right now also because I literally am not, I just made the change not to work in the clinic setting as well. So yeah. So yeah, when people describe also, I'm a bit like, wait, hang on. Sometimes I'm like, what do I need to say for this person?
Yeah. I think adjusting, right, our responses sometimes, it can feel like, sometimes it feel like, oh, am I being fake if I don't say the whole thing? But sometimes you have to adjust because is necessary. Like
Yes, like
that's
if
your
I'm in a
response.
conference with all other doctors and stuff like that, I might just say something, different than if I
Yeah,
were in a
Yeah.
conference of,
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
founders. I might say something different.
exactly.
If I'm with
Yeah.
moms, I'd be like, I'm a mom too,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
think for women, we might hold and wear lots of different hats to have
Mm,
that thing.
agree.
Um,
Because it's
Mm,
all about who you're connecting with and
mm,
how, what you say about yourself connects best with that
yes,
group of people. Yeah.
yes, yes.
mm.
Yeah.
So it's
And
not hard to admit, I guess. Was there
mm,
anything that, I'm just wondering what could be harder to admit and get juicy?
maybe you don't have,
uh,
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mm.
yeah. Okay. Shall we move on to Susanna?
Okay.
Ooh.
What does your body know about stress that your mind often ignores? Hmm. Uh, Actually, my mind and body are quite aligned. So if when I feel like I've no energy or no spark for something, um, it's always the same. Like my mind will be like, I don't really want to do this. And my body will not summon the energy to do it anyway. Yeah. So
Mm,
I can't say that my body knows and then my mind ignores, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And I'm very conscious of what my body tells me. So
mm,
I I don't deny these things.
mm,
And I don't
mm.
ignore it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think Susanna, you have a level of self-awareness that is
I was
different
going to
from,
say that.
yeah, different from most people. So, definitely to your advantage when both are aligned. Yeah.
And
Most,
what do you think has, Susanna, what has contributed, if anything at all, has contributed to your level of awareness? Because, like Shamala said, also not everyone comes with this, right?
mm,
What do you
Mm,
think was?
okay. Funnily enough, I think maybe something that started out badly, like I was diagnosed as having hypochondria. Being very aware of every single thing happening to my body, everything I feel. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I think that might have helped me eventually after I
mm,
kind of got healed from that neurosis. Um, it hasn't, in a way, it's a better version of that now.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get into this like, oh my gosh, from a headache, I jump to, oh, I've got brain tumor anymore. But, when I have a headache, maybe I'll tell myself, maybe I'm dehydrated, I need to drink more. It's my sinus acting up again, so just be careful with all these things. Yeah. So, having kept a symptom journal. I used to keep a symptom journal. The psychiatrist told me to do that. I think that helped
mm,
to also balance out, that it's not always a terminal thing. Yeah, yes, be aware of
Mm.
why you're having this little thing and then just let it sit
mm,
for a few days even. Don't do anything about it. And then when it passes, take note of it that it passed. Yeah.
mm,
So I guess it became like a habitual thing where I'm just naturally very like acutely aware, and then now it's become a balance sort of, okay, so then do this, don't do
mm,
this, maybe sleep earlier tonight,
mm,
don't eat
mm,
this, you feel
mm.
a bit bloated, okay, don't eat that cauliflower, don't order the cauliflower, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, it's your neurosis that brought you here, lah. I mean, you're
Yes,
like far
yes,
advanced with
Yeah.
other
yes,
people
yes.
compared with
Yeah.
how a lot of people are connected to their bodies.
Mm,
Mm.
mm. Interesting, yeah. We always take what is considered a weakness and make it into
Yes,
strength, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That's good.
Mm. Your turn.
Mm.
Ooh, I would love to hear this from you.
What does emotional maturity mean to you now in practice, not theory? Within myself and, in how I observe in other people, emotional maturity is being able to slow down and listen, to whether listening to myself, right, and not jump into conclusion, and other people, right, like not to second guess what they're doing, right, like, and not to, yeah, I mean, and to spot other people's immaturity. Oh,
Sorry, you
Hello.
can see my screen is not on.
Oh,
Lens of-
oh, the little one.
Sorry, don't let me interrupt you.
Oh.
so emotional immaturity in people becomes very obvious, when I slow down. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When you
Okay.
slow down, you can spot it in people better, you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's like
Oh,
not jumping to conclusions and
yeah.
also not being impulsive and acting on emotion, that kind of thing, right?
More about, like giving space, basically. Giving space to allow things to develop, to show. Because sometimes a certain emotion comes out, it may not be that thing, it could be more. Yeah.
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 True.
It's so sweet that your girl brought the baby to you to be fed.
She can. Was she carrying?
He was carrying,
Wow.
he's 6 years old and just about can. Yeah. So I let them practice lah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's actually useful. Like, she would be with the baby and I could go for a pee,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
the thing is with all these memes about parents like can't even pee, then you're like da, da, da. But with older kids around, actually it can work.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
actually could be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yep.
say that I've met some moms with multiple children as well, like 4 or something. They have this age gap, and when they have an age gap, right, it's a bit like they are having multiple single childs because the age gap is so big, right? Yeah, and I'm like, sometimes I feel like, wow, what would that be like? That's so cool. So yeah, but I'm very happy with my life. Obviously, the way that we've done it is really to have a horde of them all at once, which also means like herding cats, lah, Susanna. It really is, like you manage to get one out the door, then the next one you're getting out the door, and then that one has gone back in. Like like when they're of that age, small but very cute, lah.
Yeah.
Getting older very fast.
Yeah.
And like going back to what you said about aunts and grandparents, like older siblings are also part of the system, the care system, right?
Yeah, they actually can be. They can be. I try not to overdo it.
Yeah.
They can be developmentally can be to see how our elders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So
Hi, baby.
cute. Hello.
He looks very Caucasian.
Yes.
He does. He
Yes.
has blue eyes.
Oh,
Really?
What?
Wow.
Caucasian, yes.
Are meant to be the dominant.
Yeah.
Dark is dominant, right? Yeah, but apparently not lah. There's something else genetically going on here.
Interesting.
I mean, my mom is half North Indian, so they can tend to have colored eyes. But even my grandmother, that side grandfather, that no colored eyes at all. So I don't know what this is. We'll watch and see. It could change back to brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know.
I think Caucasian babies all have blue eyes.
Is it?
When they're born.
They start off blue, then it could turn hazel, it could turn green, it could turn whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they can see and
can see.
Can see
And I think it's interesting how the genetic game is being played, right? Like the more kids you have,
Yes.
sometimes the mix becomes more and more interesting.
Yes.
For some reason, I've
Yeah.
seen it in other people too. Like they have
Yeah.
like a white person and a black person, right?
Hello.
With multiple kids, and by the time they reach the last one, the youngest one,
Yeah.
the mix is so
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
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 Really?
True.
Oh well, I'm not gonna spin that wheel anymore. You're so at capacity right now. You must think I'm talking
Very
to myself because I'm having headphones on.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
cute. Yeah.
Lovely to meet you, Susanna.
Yes,
and
lovely
obviously
to meet you too.
Yeah, and then
We'll
to
let you
see
go.
Shamala. Yeah, we are IJ girl crew here.
I know, right?
So funny. I did go to Nanyang
Oh,
midway
okay.
through secondary school because my
Okay.
mom, she said that I could do better academically. So she put me into Nanyang, which I did lah, which also meant that I also burnt out then too because I was running. Then I was also trying to score A's and stuff like that. But you know,
Okay.
we went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to
Okay.
Nanyang. So, but most people still look at me and go, "You're an IJ girl, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. The IJ print is
Can't
there.
take the IJ out
Yeah.
of the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll catch up again. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Thank you
take
so
care.
much.
Y'all,
See
bye.
you. Bye bye.